Chapter 21. Logan's POV. "Maybe that's what triggered her memory loss," my father said as he paced the room. "Yeah, she said he was her best friend, and she probably looked up to him like the older brother she didn't have," my mother said, with sadness. "The shock of him treating her badly and abusing her must have affected her too much," my father continued. "But why would that Drake person and her parents betray her like this?" my mother asked, anger lacing her every word. I sighed and averted my gaze to Eva. She was lying on her stomach in the floor, scribbling on a piece of paper. God knows where she got it from. She looked so peaceful, so happy. She was beautiful. "Why aren't you saying anything, son?" my father asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. I don't know what to say," I replied solemnly. "Why would anyone just sell their daughter for money? And if Eva herself and Drake knew about her true self, didn't her parents know too? If they were bad people, they would have kept her for the pearl and not have given her to someone else." "It's all just too weird," I explained, still looking at Eva. "Where the hell did she get the paper from?" My father sighed from beside me. "If Drake wants her back, that means that she's in danger. We have to get the files from Drake's office as soon as possible and let the king lock him," he stated. I nodded in agreement, still looking at Eva curiously. I got up from my place and strolled towards her. I bent down on the floor right next to her face. "Eva, where did you get that paper from?" I asked. She didn't look at me and just pointed at the coffee table near the window as she continued drawing the sun. I furrowed my eyebrows, and something inside of me was on high alert. "Eva, can I just see this?" I said as I pulled the paper from her hand slowly. She protested, but I managed to pull it out. I flipped the page, and that's when my eyes bulged from their sockets. Holy shit! She was drawing on the back of a peace treaty between us and our neighboring pack. What will they say when they find the sun, a house, and grass drawn on the back? "Shit," I muttered under my breath. "What's wrong, Logan?" my mother asked worriedly. "Eva just drew on the back of a peace treaty," I replied back as I continued to stare at the paper with my wide eyes. "I'm ruined." I heard my father trying to stifle his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. I looked at him angrily. "This concerns you too, you know. You're still the alpha," I scolded, but he just couldn't stop. Even my mom was trying to stop the smile from cracking onto her face. I felt Eva tug at my sleeve, and I turned to look at her. Hands extended in a give me something way. I raised an eyebrow at her. "What?" I asked. "Give me my paper back," she demanded in a scowl. "Eva, this is a really important paper. You can't draw on it," I told her calmly. "No, give me my paper," she demanded again, her scowl growing. "No, Eva, this—" I couldn't get to finish my sentence as she snapped again. "Give me my paper back," she demanded for the third time, stomping her foot angrily on the ground. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, calming myself and trying to think of a way to convince her. I didn't get a chance, though, as I felt the paper getting snatched from my hand. My eyes immediately opened wide. "Give it back," I ordered Eva, but her reply was unexpected. Without saying anything, she quickly crumpled the paper and placed it in her mouth, and she started chewing on it. I gasped like some queen bee when she breaks a nail. I even had my hand in front of my mouth as I stared at Eva in horror. I narrowed my eyes at her. "Bad Eva! Naughty, naughty, naughty!" I scolded, pointing at her. She was giving me a flat look and then just spit the makeshift ball on the carpet. I gasped again. All the while, my parents were cracking up laughing at the scene. I groaned at them in frustration. I was brought out of my misery when Eva gasped behind me. I instantly turned to be faced with a very panicked face. She had her eyes wide, and she seemed to be trying to control something. "What's wrong, Eva?" I asked, panic evident in my voice. She didn't reply and only whimpered. "What's wrong?" I asked again. Then suddenly one of her hands reached to the back, holding her bum, while the other held her front. I raised my eyebrows at her in confusion. "What?" I asked, bewildered. She didn't answer and still looked alarmed. Logan? I think she wants to go to the bathroom," my mom said. My eyes widened at her words, and I hastily placed Eva over my shoulder and ran to the bathroom. I was stopped at the entrance when my mother called. "Logan, are you really going to help her pee?" she asked with a raised eyebrow. My father had his hand over his mouth, trying hard not to laugh. Realization dawned on me, and I immediately placed her back down. She started hopping in her place, from one foot to the other, trying to hold it in. "Mom, help her," I pleaded, as I too started hopping in my place, mimicking Eva. My mom made her way towards us with a smug smile. When she reached me, she smirked and said, "If I didn't know you better, I'd think that you too are trying to hold it in." "Mom," I groaned as I pushed her towards Eva. Okay, she said in laughter as I pushed her inside the bathroom. I kept staring at the door until my father stood beside me. "You're a sucker, you know that?" he stated with a grin. He knows more than anyone how it's like to be with your mate after missing her for a long time. "And I don't regret any of it," I replied with a grin of my own. Seconds later, my mother came out shaking her head. "Where's Eva?" I asked. "Peeing," she replied with a duh tone. "Then why did you leave her?" I asked again. "She kicked me out," she replied as she threw her hands in the air, and I was only able to reply with, "Oh." Our heads snapped towards the bathroom door as Eva's voice resonated from behind it. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are," she sang, and we all stopped talking and listened to her. "That girl can never get the R even if her life depended on it," my mother said with a smile. "R isn't the only thing," I replied with a sight. "Don't take me wrong, I love Eva, whether it's a 20-year-old or a 3-year-old. But I never thought I'd be taking care of a mini Eva before I even marked the adult Eva. I always dreamt about mini Evas and mini me's running all around the house. The images themselves made a smile to spread across my face. I went up to the bathroom door and knocked when I couldn't hear Eva anymore. "Eva, you okay in there? Are you done?" I asked. I was answered back with a low, I looked at my mom and she nodded at me. Seconds later, my mom and Eva emerged from the bathroom, Eva looking as refreshed as ever. She sure was a handful. The rest of the day went by peacefully. I spent most of it in my office, though, trying to make another copy of the agreement Eva ate. I was so getting her for it. Eva, on the other hand, spent the rest of her day downstairs, mostly with the twins. They played together, ate loads of junk food, much to my dismay. They even fought about silly things, and I would find Eva running into my office, crying on my lap, as she complained about them. She would even snitch on something they did from her frustration, making me chuckle at her. I, of course, was on her side, every time. I looked up at the clock in my office where my father and I were working, only to find that it was already 10 p.m. I sighed and got up from my place. "I'll go tuck Eva in. It's getting late," I told my father. He just nodded, not removing his eyes off the papers in front of him. I went downstairs to find Eva and the twins eating ice cream while watching something on TV. "Come on, you guys, time for bed," I said, clapping my hands. "No!" they all protested in unison. "Come on, it's already 10, I said, making my way to the TV and turning it off. The twins groaned while Eva just gave me her best glare. It only made me smile at how cute she looked with the glare and crossed arms. The twins said their good nights and made their way to their room. I stood in front of Eva, her hands still folded across her chest and her eyes throwing daggers at me. "Come on, Eva. It's time to go to bed, I cooed, and in came her famous reply. My name is not Eva, she said, and turned her head. Okay, I'm sorry. Come on, let's go, I apologized with a smile. She turned her head and looked at me. Her gaze softened, and she opened her arms. You want me to carry you? I asked with a raised eyebrow. She just nodded her head. My smile grew wider as I snaked my arms around her waist. She held onto my neck and wrapped her legs around my torso. She yawned as she placed her head on my shoulder. I couldn't stop grinning at how close our bodies were. I ascended the stairs and made my way to our room. I placed Eva on the bed and pulled the covers over her body. Am I going to sleep in my clothes? She asked, and I raised an eyebrow at her. Mommy told me to always wear my pajamas, she explained, and I nodded my head in realization. I quickly made my way to the closet and pulled out one of my pajama pants and a shirt. I know my mom got her own pajamas, but I liked it better when she wears my clothes. I gave her the clothes, but she just kept looking at me. Then she narrowed her eyes. Close your eyes, she scolded as her cheeks tinted pink. I chuckled at her in embarrassment. Okay, I said as I turned around, giving her my back. Better? I asked, but she didn't answer. I heard shuffling behind me and a few grunts before she spoke again. Done, she said, and went under the covers. I followed her and adjusted myself on my back. I felt movement from beside me, and when I looked, Eva was moving closer to me, curling herself on my side as she clutched my shirt. Tell me a bedtime story, she mumbled sleepily. Okay. There was once a beautiful young girl who lived with her parents. They loved her so much, and they all spent their days in happiness. One day the mother got sick, and not long after she died. The father was so sad, but he still wanted what's best for his daughter, and so he married someone else. She was a beautiful lady and had 2 daughters. I stopped mid-sentence as Eva raised her head quickly and yet again narrowed her eyes at me. That's Cinderella, she said angrily. I gave her a guilty look. Okay, I'll say another one, I said as she laid her head back. There was once an old merchant who had 7 children. They were... I was stopped again as Eva raised her head to look at me. Okay, I'll say something else, geez. She looked at me suspiciously before laying her head back. There was once a king and a queen who wanted to have a child so badly. They prayed and prayed until their wish came true. The whole kingdom... This time, Eva didn't just raise her head. She went into sitting position Indian style. She crossed her arms and glared at me. What? Coming up with a new story is hard, I said defensively. Can't you just thank God for what you have? She rolled her eyes at me and laid back down. I don't want a story anymore. Go to sleep, she said as she positioned herself comfortably. Are you sure? 'Cause I can totally try to think of something. My words were met with silence. Her even breathing and steady heartbeat told me that she was sleeping. She was probably beat up today. I myself was so tired. I wrapped Eva's body around my arms and pulled her closer. I closed my eyes and started drifting to sleep as I enjoyed Eva's body against mine.